Okay, here's a drawing exercise. I'm going to do this interesting structure here on the front of this building. So we're going to draw that. So there's my reference drawing. I was out here yesterday and I took a picture, but I'm going to use the reference, but I'm actually going to draw here on location. The first thing I'm going to do an outline drawing before I get started. Okay, so just a simple mechanical pencil, and we'll get started here. I like that configuration, so I think it'll be a vertical format. So I'll start here with my corner here. I think that's a good place to start, right here. Okay, so what I've done is I've gotten an outline here, a basic outline using a photograph and actually on site, and that's where I'm going to start. And I'll take this back to the studio. Here's the subject this morning. I'm going to do a drawing of this entrance to this building. With the interesting shapes there and an interesting configuration. So I'm going to draw that, and over here I've got my setup. There's a photograph I took yesterday. There's a nice shadow pattern there, but it's going to be nice today too. You see the sun coming up, so I'll be using this. But I've got drawing paper and I've got pencils, and that's what I'm going to use today. I'm going to pencil it in with the pencils and have a nice go. So that's my starting point. So yesterday I did a quick outline here, sketch. So I'm going to start with that and draw that in, and that's my starting point. And here's my pencils. Got an assortment here. I've got some 4B and 6B lead pencils, a couple shading pencils here, 6B, and I've got a blender stump, okay, and a small eraser if I need it. So this is my drawing sketch. I'll start out here with I'll start with a 4B, and let me go in and define some areas. Maybe start putting in some shading. I think I'll start with this area up here on the corner, and let's go ahead and put in. This will be a little darker here. Now it's just black and white. It's black and white, so this will be a darker value here than the whiteness of the other part of the structure. The sun is coming out, so it feels nice today. It's nice and warm. It's warm, about 71, 72 degrees. And it's supposed to be a pleasant day. You can see the sun, see the shadow here on the paper, so you can see the sun starting to come up. It's about 7:30 in the morning. I was waiting for a good sunrise. And I will shade in this section over here. These are, when you're shading in something like this, these big spaces, they take a little time. Now I can move this down here to a more horizontal position. Okay, now I'll continue on now. I've got that started. Now this part up here is also shaded in, because it's darker. So when you're playing with I'm not playing with color, I'm playing with the values. So this value of this section here is darker than the value of another section. So that's where the pencil comes in to get the values. And values are very important. I think the values is what gives you the structure and the real meaning of the object. The colors are always gets the credit, but the values are really the most important part of the drawing or a painting. So this is a good study in values. Now I've got this beam. I got this beam across here. This beam across here, and again I'll bring it down. And again, it's a little easier and a little faster to do it, moving it at an angle here so I can shade it in. And this is just like it's just like painting. This is like the first layer, or the first. I don't want to call it a wash, but it's the first layer of graphite. Graphite pencil, first layer of graphite, just to get it started. And we can always darken it up, and if I have to take it out, I can erase some of it. Okay, so I got that beam there. Now there's a structure down here. There's a part here, connection, and there's a beam that comes down here behind. Of course, depending on what direction we're looking at, the structure here goes right into the other. What really fascinated was the shapes of the columns here. I think I've got these angular shapes here of this part of the structure I'm doing now, and there's sort of straight lines, and it's a triangular shape. But because of the angle I'm looking at, it's got also some depth to it. So I'll try to capture the depth, where some parts will be darker than others depending on where they're located. So we'll try to present this as a three-dimensional drawing. Hopefully I'll be before I get finished, we'll see that. Okay, there's that back structure, and now I got this little There's another structure back here. This is the back part against the building. And these darker areas, darker valued areas will show off those white columns. And I thought that was the most interesting part of this whole building structure was the entranceway. And this is kind of unique. I've not seen one like this before. So it's different. And so when I draw something, I like to find something a little different and a challenge. You know, this is a challenge to get the shapes and the dimensions and so forth. And already, as I say, I've just kind of put in the first layer. Okay. Now the next, I'll get another dark area. There's a dark part at the top here. I can capture that. It's just kind of the trim of the building. That's kind of dark. I'll put that in. And everything that's white, I'm just going to leave white. And the sky, I might put a little shading in that just to get the sky. Again, it's not important, but again, for values, sky has a value. And if it makes a little sense to put that in, we'll do that. But right now, just capturing some of the dark areas. There's a little trim across the top there. And there's also a little bit of I don't know, I guess I call it decorations, or just a little different shape up here. It's a little dark area. Just kind of put that in. Now another dark area is going to be sort of in the background here behind. This is the door. These are the doorways, so I'll go ahead and put some of that in. Just kind of shade it in very quickly. And let's see if I'll use another pencil here. Just kind of shade that in. And really the only parts that's going to be light is going to be these columns. And parts of the building, a lighter area too. Make these doorways in shadow. Yeah, I come across there too. And these windows are in shadow. The windows and doors back here. These parts of this front building, got lots of windows. And that one there. Let's see. Yeah, that'll color. This is white. Okay. Trying to keep myself straight here. Be easier, I'll bring it down again. I'll bring it down so I can work on it a little bit. Okay. So I got the windows, the back door. Again, kind of screen it in. These columns here are fine. And I come down. Now, the building itself is very light. You can see, I can show you the. Now, what I'm going to do, I'm going to take the camera now and kind of show you what I've done, and then show you what I've. Take a look at the photograph, the building again. So you can see there, that's what I've done so far. And then as I look at the building, you can see I've got the dark windows and the dark values of that triangular shape at the top of this entranceway, triangular shape. And now look at the light gray, very light gray of the building side, and there's also the light gray here of the concrete here at the base. So there's a couple areas I can put in real quickly. So I'll put that in like that. Okay, back to drawing. So once I got the outline done yesterday, now it's just a matter of shading in different areas. So okay, I'll use a lighter pencil. Say a 2B. No, I got a 4B. I'll use a 4B. Okay. I've been using the 6B. Using the 6B up here because it's darker lit. You know, on the side of the building here, I'll use a 4B. a 4B lead. That's just a little lighter. It's a lighter value, so I'll give it the shot here with this. The lighter value. This is the bricks on the side of this building. They're regular concrete bricks. They're a little different than a standard concrete brick, but they are bricks, brick shapes. So we can give it a light value. Okay. And there's a corner up here. Hi. Corner of the building's right here. I'm going to put that in just to indicate the corner. That's the corner of the building there. Goes down to the base. I'll put that in a little bit, kind of define that. Okay. There are some trees here, but they're very, they help define this post out here, so that's why I'm putting those in. So the trees I really don't worry about too much. These are just like little small pine trees here in the background. I can put that in. But that'll help define this pole right here, this cylindrical pole. Because again, I'm kind of just it's kind of like a block end now, and I'm just getting things started. And I'll build up a little more detail as I go along. And let's see, this is kind of there's a little bit of shrubbery and so forth along the side of the building, but again, I'm just going to block that in as one value. As one value. It's just it shows off this section here. And then on the outside, on this sketch I made it large as I could so I could fill up a page, but also to make the structure really have a good size. And so there's a tree over here on the right hand side. You can see the nice shadow pattern. I'm getting a nice shadow pattern now coming in. And I'll be able to pick that up on the building itself. So I took the photograph yesterday, and that gave me a nice shadow pattern, gave me some ideas. So I can either use the photograph as a shadow, and that's a good idea. You should, when you're starting out on a drawing or a painting, and you have an interesting shadow pattern, it's a good idea to take a snapshot of that with your camera. Always have your cell phone or camera with you, and take a snapshot of that shadow pattern, because it's going to change. Because as you work, the sun's going to move around, it's going to move higher, and the shadow pattern is going to change on you. So if you find a shadow pattern you really like, you want to capture it. And there's several ways. You can draw it out, a quick sketch. You can do a sketch on another piece of paper to give you the idea that you want, or take a quick snapshot. Then you have a record there of the shadow pattern, and that's what you want to. That way you keep your shadow, you keep your plan where you want it. You get the structure, you get the values of the structure, and then if you're going to put shadows on it, which makes it more interesting, you really want to have a good shadow plan. What's the direction of light? Now see, the direction of light now is coming this way. It's coming from my right into this way. So the shadow is going to go back this section. I can see it also on the ground. And the photograph I took yesterday, you can see the nice sharp patterns on the ground, very nice, and the shadows on the side of the structure, shadows on the side on the beams up here. So that really gives you and look at the shadow, another little indirect shadow up there. So that really is probably going to be the shadows that's the shadow plan I'm going to use from the photograph. Okay, so that's an example. That's an example of having a photograph or a picture to capture the shadow pattern. That's the only reason I took that. I took that to get the configuration I wanted to look at, but also I wanted to capture the shadow pattern because it was so nice, dramatic, very dramatic. It was a little bit later in the day too, so and that's okay. right now, you know, I say I'm around 7:30, it's a quarter of 8, and then when I did that photograph, yeah, it was more like 8. It was almost like 9 o'clock. So the pattern's going to change. Okay, let's see. Now, one thing before I don't want to touch any of the bricks yet so far and the ground. I'm just going to work on the dark structures. So I think what I'll do is I'm going to let me shade this in with my blender. So let's start with the structures. I'm going to blend this in, and this way I'll also figure out how much darker I want to go with this. So once you blend it in, because the blender helps smooth out the pencil marks. That's what the blender does. And it's always a good idea to blend in what you have and then go from there. Because the rough pencil marks are going to be scratches and they're going to be irregular and so forth. But the blender will smooth that out and give you a nice indication of just what you want to do next. So I might make that a little, now to show that that's behind, I might make that a little bit darker, showing that's behind this beam over here. So again, I'm going to play with the values here to give me dimension. And I'll make some of these areas darker than others to make it look like it's behind, and something lighter, which is closer, will be lighter, will be closer to me. It'll be a lighter value. Okay, so I'll go ahead and put this right here. Again, doing a nice blending here. And by leaving the building white, and maybe I'll just show parts of the outline, but that way I don't have to shade in a lot more than just these darker areas. So my plan was just to capture the shape today and the shadow pattern. The basic shapes, basic values, and the shadow pattern. That's my plan today. So I don't want to get into much detail about things that are around the exterior to the building. This is the most important part of my drawing, is the building. This entrance way. The building is not important. It's just, it'll show what it's attached to, and that's the only importance of the building, is to show location, or relative location. What is the structure? The structure is attached to the building. That's what it's going to. That's the important part of the story. Now the entrance way. I get some of these back. Now I get a shade in the back areas here. Again, this might be darker too because it's behind. There's a darker area back here. As I go further back, it gets a little bit darker, which I can emphasize. Top of these beams. We'll talk about those when I get to them because they're very interesting. I think that's the most interesting part of the drawing. And I use different pencils here. I used a 6B and a 4B, and you can see it, and that's fine. I used different pencil widths, different pencil values to give me different marks on the paper, and then when I blend them together, they'll give me another look at it. Do I want to make it darker? Do I want to take something out? Do I want to put something back in? So drawing is, to me, it's such a relaxing, it's a meditative exercise. It's good to be able to meditate on this and relax. It's a good relaxing exercise. And of course, shading in something like this takes a little bit of patience, and takes a little bit of time. You start seeing the results here very soon when you do a job on this, because you start to see some results of things popping out. And that's what I like to see. I like to see the growth in front of my eyes and see the possibilities. Okay. Okay, all right, so I'm going to darken some of these beams here because they're further back and they're in shadows. So what I'm going to do is take my lead pencil again. I'll take my 6B. I think I'll take my 6B and I'll take this shader right here. Okay. This happens to be a 6B lead pencil, and this happens to be a black wing. This black wing with a matte. This is this is one of my favorite pencils. But I've got it shaved down. I've got the end of the lead marked at an angle, so I can put that in and do a nice edge. And so I can get a nice clean edge with this pencil. And I sharpen my pencils with an X-Acto knife. I don't use a pencil sharpener. I like to sharpen my pencils with a knife, X-Acto knife. It gives me a much cleaner. I can expose more of the lead that way, and then I can shape the lid a little bit so I can get the right angle I want. So this has like a 45-degree angle on the lead itself. It's not straight across, and it's not comes to a point. I've got it slanted, so I can come in here and do a nice mark with it, and a nice sharp mark. Okay, so I'll put that there in shadow behind. I want that to be a little darker. And then what I'm going to do here is on this beam here. This is behind, so I'm going to make this a little darker. You show it goes behind this other beam, so I'm darkening in some areas now to give them a little more depth. Of course, the lighting is going to change, so I'm going to make a plan here. I'm going to stick with it. So, because if I start now and they say a half hour later, the sun has changed, we're going behind a cloud, or it comes out, it moves higher into the sky, and gives you another look in say half an hour, then you're going to be chasing the light, which is a real challenge as an artist. Changing light, because it changes a lot during the time. Say an hour of drawing or an hour of painting, you'd be surprised how quickly the lighting will change. Let's see. I'm going to put this beam here. It's a little bit darker. So I'm going to move it at an angle so I can do a better job here. So move it a little more horizontal so I have more control over the pencil. Try different ways. Okay, I made these a little darker here because it shows that the sun's hitting this a little more. Now the sun's going behind a cloud, so it doesn't really show you. I can't really show you the difference there now, but this photograph that I took here, you can see here. These were much darker behind. This was much lighter. This was much darker because the sun was coming in, and these were all in shadow. You can see here, and parts of it were light. So I'm going to try. As I said, I'm going to use this as my shadow. My shadow plan is a photograph. So I have a shadow plan. And so what I'm going to do now is make this darker here. So I'll bring this down. I'll bring this down, make this going to be darker. So I came out here to draw this to finish up the sketch I did yesterday, but also to revisit the location. Even though I took a photograph and I could sit in that studio and I could draw this in the studio and do the same, not the same thing, but I could do it. I could have done. My choice was to do it in the studio and film the process, or to come out here and draw it on site. And I'd rather draw it on site because I can see things now that I don't want to miss. And the photograph is one thing, but seeing things in real life is very important. Making this much darker. I'm making this edge here much darker. The light's coming from. This is the lightest one over here, and so this is going to be in shadow. Okay. And now the shadow. This one's going to be in shadow back here. So I'm going to darken in this side right here on the inside. This is the inside portion of this part of the beams. It's inside this triangular shape. That's why I thought this was such an interesting structure, because not just the shapes and the angles, but also with the shadow patterns that were being cast with the sun. And it makes it a nice challenge to capture and practice. And by practicing your drawing skills, so I got this dark here, and this is lighter. This is a little bit lighter, the sun coming through. And again, the sun is not even out now. The sun is behind a cloud, so it's not even, the structure doesn't show me anything. So I got to rely. I'm relying on the photograph. Okay. And what I can do, I want to clean up a little bit of edge down here. The most important edge is the edge just next to the poles. I'll call them poles right now. They're cylinders. They're cylindrical shapes, but I want to get the edges really nice and sharp here. So I'll come in. What I'm doing is I'm coming into that edge. I'm coming in, I'm making sure that's sharp. That point, this edge is really nice and defined. And then I can just kind of play with the rest of it. I'm not really concerned with what the background is doing. It's just a shadow. It's just a value. So I can just put anything in there a little bit. And now this edge over here, I keep turning the paper a little bit so I can get a better angle at shading. So I'm gonna turn this here, and I'm gonna lay it flatter, and I'm gonna get this edge here next to the pole. That value is very important to get those poles to stand out. Right now, the poles are white, and I want to keep them. White. And this edge here is not too important. It's just the bottom of the window section. It's in shadow. Okay. This edge over here, this vertical edge here, I'll get that one. I got to turn a little bit. So again, I'm turning it so I get a better angle, easier to shade in. So the reason I wanted to do this, wanted to do a video, was to show you how I would draw this scene, but also the importance of shading, the importance of a shadow pattern, and how you capture a structure that's a little bit unique, a little bit different. A little breeze blowing up today. My photograph's kind of floating around, so I'm going to put it inside another book so I have it safe. Okay, well, that's enough of that. And I need a little more shading. There's a pole here. So what I'm doing, I compare the value. There's a pole here in the back. There's 1, 2, there's a third pole way behind, and there's a fourth one over here. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then what I want to do is make sure this value here, next to this pole here in the background, is enough to pull that edge out. And what I mean, that's going to, anything that's lighter is going to come forward. Everything darker goes back. And that's a good principle in art, that if you do, even in any kind of landscape, or even in still life, you still have a background and a foreground. And if your background is darker and your foreground is a little bit lighter, then you can see the depth in the painting. In this case, the drawing. So this section right here, not as dark as this, but it's a little, it's going to have a little bit darker value than the pole. I'm comparing the value of the pole with the value of the brick wall here, brick wall structure. And that's the edge of the building right there. That's the corner of the building that goes up. Okay, and this one over here we already talked about again. I'll just darken in these tree lines. And now I can make the building stand a little bit better. So I can make the building, because the building is lighter, I can bring that tree area up here next to the building and emphasize the tree next to the building. So now I'm making the tree darker than the building, which brings the building forward a little bit. Makes the background push back even further. So by making the background darker, it's going to go back. Now, if I was painting this, I would also make sure it was blue. It'd be cooler. It'd be cooler. Warmer coming forward, cooler going back. So cooler temperature. When we talk about color, you're talking about temperature. Value and temperature. Those are things you need to study and learn and observe. You'll observe that in nature. Nature is the best teacher for an artist, because it's right there in front of you. What color should I make that? What value? Well, just look at it. That's the answer. Just draw and paint what you see, and then practice that. It takes practice, but that practice will get better over time. And now as I come forward, I want this to be a little bit darker than the building, but now I don't want it as dark as back here. So there's going to be like a gradation here as I come forward. And again, it's just a matter of showing a little difference here between the background and the foreground. And this also helps. This defines the edge of that building. And also, I'm going to turn this around again so I get the edge. This defines the edge of this pole. Okay. And the last area I want to darken down is this tree here on the right. It's just the edge of the drawing, edge of the painting, which is not that important. You don't want too much emphasis out here. You don't want the eye to go out here too much or too often. Just one indication that there's something behind. This will help define the edge of this pole, and that's about all I want to do. I don't want to get too much attention out there on the edge. But I will make it is the background. It'll be a little bit darker than the foreground here. But I don't want it to be too obvious, other than to help define the edge of this pole. That's all I want to do. Come down here and make sure I get a nice filled in edge here next to the pole. Much same as I did just basically over here. Okay. Now what I'll do is get my shading. Let me shade a little bit more here. Now this will smooth out This will smooth out some of the pencil marks, because as you darken it in, you're going to get lines and different marks on the paper. It's pretty good. And I'll smooth this out. That'll make that color a little bit more gradual or smooth. And this, I'll just put this in a little bit. Concentrating on the edges where the change in value is the change in value from dark to light. Very important right there. Okay. I think the last thing I want to do is now that if you, I'll give you an example here. Let me just show you. There's no. Okay, now we got a pretty good start there. Now I'm going to just shade in the white poles, but I'll go take now the sun is completely under the clouds now. You can see there is no shadow pattern. So I'd have to make up a shadow pattern or make a guess at it. If I can memorize a shadow pattern and I can come up with it when I come up to an area. But it's always better to capture it on film or make a quick sketch to get the shadow pattern you're trying to capture. So what I was showing you there was there's no shadow pattern now because the sun is completely under a cloud. Okay, now what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take a little bit of, let's see, I'll use I guess I can use the 6B, and I'm going to concentrate now on the white poles. I've done just about everything else, and I'm going to go back to my photograph. You'll see here in the photograph there's a shading effect here. This is the cylindrical object, so the edges are going to be rounded, and the way you show the depth of the roundness is by shading one of the edges. Now the sun's coming from right to left, so this section will be white, but the left section will be darker because it's turning away from the light. This is in light, this is away from light, and you'll see the cast shadow down on this beam, on this pole here, the cast shadow here. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to do the poles here and the cast shadow, and the cast shadow on the pavement. Cast shadow, very nice here. So that's why I captured this yesterday. Good example of a shadow pattern. Okay, so that's what I'm going to use. All right, so the first thing I'm going to do is go in and put a little bit of this is the main pole here. So what I'm going to do is put in just a little bit of shading here. So the value of this edge is a little bit lighter than the background, but then it curves away to nothing. So I'm just going to put a little bit of graphite on this edge, just a little bit of graphite, and that's if I was measuring that, that's probably about 1/4 of an inch. And it depends on the viewpoint you have, and the shape of the size of the this is a large cylinder, so it's going to have a fairly pretty large, or in this case a pretty small edge compared to the other side. All right, and I'm going to go ahead and shadow in this down. I'm going to put a little bit on this one down here. And as I shade this in, I'm also going to check its value against the background, because I still want it to be lighter than that dark background, but it's going to be dark enough to show the effect of the shadow of the cylinder. This is in light here on this edge, and as you go around the cylinder, it goes out of light around the edge. That'll give the depth. This is what I'm really looking forward to. It'll give the depth of these cylinders. Okay. Now, The other pole over here in the front is also, now this is interesting. You'll notice here, this one has, depends on, again, you use a photograph or use your own observation, just how much shadow you need. But observing is probably the best way to draw or paint anything. You observe, and then you draw what you see. And the more times you practice that, that's been my big lesson: is draw what you see. So I heard so many people say, I can't draw anything. Well, then you need to look more. Just look and look and look, and draw what you see every time, and you'll get better at it. And this has a pole up here, which I can put in. There's a pole attached to this, to the structure. There's a little dark spot at the top. So this one's already got one, and there's one over here. Put that in. There's a darker spot here. Pole. It's a connector. This connects the cylinder to the structure. Okay. You don't see this one because it's behind. Okay. And while I'm here, there's a couple others. Now I'm going to put in some other shadows. Now, if you really analyze it, a shadow is the sun is going to come in. The sunbeam comes in, and this edge here comes down, and it casts a shadow. It casts a shadow on this corner. That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to put that in there. Cast a shadow in this corner. So that gives you a little clue to the direction of the sunlight. So I'm using the photograph here to give me that pattern. The sun coming down, you can see there's also a shadow here. So this beam here is the shadow is also, this horizontal beam is now, this is really good. This horizontal beam, the light coming down, is going to be, because it's cylindrical, is going to give you a rounded one, and that's really cool. That's really cool. So I'll come down here and I'll estimate there it's about halfway down. What'll help you with, there's these grooves. There's grooves in this pole. I'll put that in. There's a groove, cylindrical. It's got a little. It goes a circuit, like an ellipse. It's not straight across. It's got like a little curve to it because it's round. And there's one over here. This is going to come back a little bit lower down here. It's going to be an ellipse. It's going to have a slightly curve to it, even though it's further away. It's still going to have a curve. Now this shadow pattern here is a circular one. So it's going to come up here. I'm going to start with the outline of it. And it goes down here. Okay, and I'm going to shade that in. So that's the shadow from this beam up here. This beam here, the light coming down, cast shadows. Cast shadows on this round cylindrical shape down here. Okay? And this further one back here, there's also this edge here gets shadows coming. It's going to hit this section over here. There's a cast shadow down here on this one. It's going to have a rounded shape because it's cylindrical. Here's another shadow over here, which helps define that edge. I like that. That's going to help define that edge of the big one here in the front. Okay, and I think I got all the cast shadows. The one in the back, I'm going to ignore that one. I'm not going to put these are the most important ones on the poles, and I think that's really what I want to show. And the other ones are going to be on the ground. Now, what's interesting here is there's also these cracks in the pavement, and I think that's a very interesting observation. are these cracks of the pavement, the concrete pavement. They're little slabs. Now I thought that's interesting to capture also, because that gives you the depth. It also helps you the depth. Lines are very important in a drawing. In this case here, they give you the depth and the dimensions of what you're looking at, because these are different sizes. As you go back, you can see and they get closer together because they're further back. So that's all part of perspective. This will come up here to this other edge. And this continues out here. That's very important. And there's a little faint one over here, and I'll put that in. Just a little faint one that comes out here in the front. Okay, so that structure there is very important. And the base is going to have a little sharper edge because it's in shadow. It's sitting on top of the pavement. So there's going to be a little crease there, going to be a little dark shadow. That helps define the base. Again, it's got a cylindrical shape to it, so it'll be an elliptical curve. Okay. Also, I can emphasize the top. They got a curve to them. Don't want to overdo it though, but just show there is a curve up there. Okay, now last thing I want to do is shade that in, and I think I'll be done. I've done a lot of talking today. I hope you've picked up a few pointers on how to capture shadows, and also once you get the shapes in, also how to get the cast shadow. This is a very interesting one here. I love this one here. It's got a circular one here because it's coming down, and it hits the edge of this cylindrical shape. Now what I'm going to do now, I'm going to hit the edge of this now, and you can see I'm going to soften the edge. Back here it's defined as sharp, but over on this side here it's going to be soft because we're hitting the curve, the cylindrical shape. I'll get this one here. I'm just going to spend a little time on this one. That could be a little bit darker, but here I'm going to start. I'll do with this one here. Get the shade in the shadow on the back side. It'll be darker, and as it comes around, I'm going to do it. I'm going to continue to feather that edge just by going over it with the blender and making that softer. This is a soft edge because it's starting to curve, going into light, so it gets softer. Okay, that gives that curved look. I'll do one more back here. Get that curved edge. Soft edge there. This one here needs a little tenderness here, a little touch. This is that cast shadow from above. Okay. Now I could continue. Now the only thing is the cast shadows on the ground. Then we can put those in. I don't want to forget those. And what we're going to do here is go by the photograph. I got cast shadows here going back. So what I'll do is take. Let's start back here. Let's start with this one over here. Oh, okay. Always have a little wind blowing. A little breeze is blowing, so I always have a clips with me, and that way I can lock down the corner or something. So you have a clip there that keeps the paper from changing on you. This shadow pattern here is going to come in. It's going to hit right in here. From the base of this, and it's going to go back here. That's one shadow, and there's one behind here that's also looks parallel because you know the light runs in straight lines from the sun. Then we're going to have a shadow. We're going to have a cast shadow off of this one, which goes back, and we're going to have a nice big shadow from this one. It's going to come off the base here. So I'm kind of drawing in the outline of the shadow now. Okay, now what I'll do is take my shading pencil, which is the black wing. I love this black wing. And I'm going to go ahead and put those in now. I think what I'm going to need to put this down here so steady. And I had to move my paper just a little bit so I can get that in. I'll hang it down. So this first shadow I'm going to put in. And this second shadow here. Now these are fairly straight lines because they're coming from the cylindrical poles. I'm calling them poles. Cylindrical structures. These cast shadows. And there's a cast shadow back here. Okay, I've got two of them in. I got the one there behind, and I've got this one across all the way across here. And I've got this small one here I'm going to put in. Moving the paper so I can do it better. That one in, I'll get this big one here. And I guess the real secret here is that in this case the sunbeams will be straight. So, and these are vertical. So these are going to be parallel lines. Almost parallel. And if we were looking at them from another perspective, they may have a slight spreading point, but in this case, because of the perspective we have, it's going to look like parallel lines. Okay, so that's the cast shadows from that. Okay, now I can make those shadows a little bit darker, but I think I'm going to call it quits right there. I think we've done enough showing the different values of the beam because of the sun coming in, the shadow pattern on the cylindrical objects, which are the poles, and then the cast shadows on the pavement. And I want to make sure we can see the depth and so forth of the structure. So today's demonstration was capturing the depth of the structure. All right. Again, there's no shadow pattern because the sun is still under the clouds, but we're able to do that from the photograph, giving a nice shadow pattern to the structure. I think what I want to do is I want to back off a little bit. I'm going to bring up the photograph close up. Okay. Okay, that concludes my drawing for today.